welcome to the channel. This is Reliable Rudy. Give me just a moment while I set everything up, and we will start with the NASDAQ, and we have some catching up to do. So, yeah, I apologize for the delay in live streams. Sometimes it can be a little tough to be consistent at a particular time in the day, but we are going to get caught up on some stuff, and I'll go over some sticky notes for today. And before we go into any analysis, you guys know I'm not a licensed financial advisor. I am simply sharing my opinion in this technical analysis, and I am a firm believer that in the short term, the stock market, an individual ticker, an ETF, a commodity, it is all just a voting machine in the short run. In the long run, I believe that uh, it will trade near its intrinsic value. It just how long is it going to take to trade at that intrinsic value? But I have a vote. Guy next to me has a vote, and the guy next to him also has a vote. So keep that in mind that a lot of stuff can be fluctuated in the short run because you never know. Some people have bigger votes than others, and they can actually control short-term pricing, and you have to be able to adapt and adjust in trading. And that's the name of the game. It can be brutal sometimes, I understand. Uh, but that being said, we are going to go into some analysis here. I'm just going to clear this chart right here that I have on the NASDAQ. And let's go pull this over. And let me make sure I got some volume going here. Let's make sure we got some volume. Yep, looks like the volume is good. Okay, so this was yesterday. So these we'll go over just today. Now the first note. NASDAQ strong, but worth a trim on these names, in particular tech names. The NASDAQ, I would say, has a nice bull flag setup. I'd be surprised if this was the top. And simply just going off of strength alone, that is why I insinuate that it is strong. For those of you who have been following the sticky notes that I've been posting, I have been a firm believer that the NASDAQ is strong, and the way I go about strength is not guaranteed. Uh, there is no guarantee with anything in the stock market, especially short term. This move that this has had is no guarantee. But when I say strength, this is where we get our positive strength. Since then, we have not gone negative in strength. When I'm looking at potential trading, I look at strength as the house. I'm sure a lot of you have been to a casino or dealt with sports betting, and you guys have come to the understanding that majority of the time the house wins. The way I look at strength is the side of strength that you have, whether it's strong or weak. The side that is on, I look at that as the house. That does not mean that the house always wins. It does not guarantee anything. But the side that I want to be on is the side of the house, and I look at strength as the house, whether it's weak, whether it's strong. So hopefully that clears up any differences that you had, and or questions that you had when I talk about strength, because it can be very complicated. So looking at the Nasdaq and why I say it is a strong bull flag move, we'll go over to the TQ because I can represent volume. I have volume here. Now when I say bull flag, what I'm looking for is nice green candle moves that takes out a key level. Now I would say this was more of a key level because you're resisting it, but you see how this is the move as you are supporting that. Now resistance turns into support, and the initial move off of this break, I'm focused on the volume down here. Now you see these three nice candle moves right here. Now yesterday was a consolidation day, but you have decreased volume, followed by this green candle right here. Now that we're getting some price action in the middle of this green move right here, which is why I would say once you see this red candle come in and sort of some levels trying to be resisted up here, this is why I'm insinuating that a trim is worth it because of how exhaustive this move is. Now another point that I want to make, I'm going to go back to a monthly. Uh, Now take this statement that I have with a grain of salt here because uh, there is not any 100% truth or fact uh, to support these statements that I'm going to make. So take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt. I think it's very unrealistic that we see a straight line move. Now this is the TQ, so it looks a little different. I'll actually go to the NASDAQ for this analysis. Sorry for the long watch list. And I'm going to take this watch list out. And let's go over to a weekly because it represents it more. There has been a lot, a lot of FOMO, in my opinion, in the market over the last few months. And a lot of people think that you're going to get this straight line move and we're set in stone that we're going to go and break new all-time highs. Look at the dip buy over here on COVID. We just broke through all-time highs and we shoot all the ways up here. This is what a lot of people in the market, I believe, are thinking, is that you're going to get this straight line move for a new all-time high. Now, comparing that to the COVID drop, this is not some sort of V-shaped recovery that blasts through all-time highs. And a lot of people, I hear the term short squeeze being used. Now, a short squeeze is nice, but all a short squeeze is, this is what a lot of people really don't understand when they're talking about a short squeeze, is all a short squeeze really is short exiting the position. That is all it is. Where you get these exhaustive moves, in my opinion, is when you can show that you're going to hold support. So, for instance, anybody short in this red move right here, you make the move. Now, this could be some sort of short exiting position, but you still have to hold support. In this scenario, there is a support held because you set a new high. Now, in this move, there could also be more shorts that are exiting their positions, but you still have to show support hold. So if this is the support that you want to see hold, you see this sideways consolidation. You are holding support right here. Anybody who's trying to go short, when you are setting another high, you could say, oh, short squeeze is in. But all a short squeeze really is shorts exiting the position. You still have to show some type of support hold. And when I was talking about the NASDAQ in particular, is when you have this flat top setup, here's the flat top I was insinuating right here, is as soon as the price breaks over top of this high, okay, shorts could be exiting the position, but you still have to show some sort of support hold. And in this scenario, you see these couple wicks was enough confirmation for people that this was holding support, and that's where you get these exhaustive moves to the upside. Is there going to be continuation? I really don't know. Short-term trading can be very interesting. Uh, but comparing this to the COVID, I would be absolutely shocked if this was just a straight moon to the upside where we take out highs. No, this was a long period of consolidation that we had here. And yes, this is an exhaustive move to the upside. But for it to show this move without any sort of consolidation back and hold of support, I think is very unrealistic. Yes, you do get a support hold right here. Uh, but I would be surprised if we don't eventually trade around this 12.5. Now, that doesn't mean that's going to happen. That doesn't mean load the boat on a short. For all I know, this can continue running. But when you get nice long consolidation periods to the downside right here, where you do have a nice channel to the downside, you do break that channel and you do eventually hold support. You see how we hold support? Yes, this was a very good time to go long in these periods down here. Of course, looking at it now, a lot of people are kicking themselves in wherever in the butts for not having more longs in the position. But when I look at this and I see nice wave patterns, you see you have a 1. This is just a simple 5-wave structure in this. Now I have a video where I would say I'm not as near as good of a trader, where I kind of break down wave patterns and kind of what I'm expecting from the market. Now when you get these 5-wave structures to the downside, the one thing that I'm looking at is some sort of retracement. So if I took a fib tool from this bottom move, I think the 702 is the deadliest of all retracements. You have clear support resistance right there. Now if we start showing resistance up in these areas, I think this is even more worthy of trimming positions up here, uh, especially if it stays bullish. And my overall long-term look is I'm not counting this equation out. Is that this move to the upside is simply just a wave two, where you are going to have some sort of channel that kind of meets up like this, where you could actually see a wave 3 pattern come in that breaks this low. You retest of wave 1, this 5-wave structure, I look at it as just a simple wave 1, where you could actually get exhaustive moves down into these previous highs before we really got very, very bullish. This equation is not out of the question. I would not count it out. Now, do we blast through all of that and I look like an idiot? Sure, we very well could. But I would be surprised if this long consolidation period that we had was just, oh, right when we break through that resistance, it's just a moonshot to the upside. I would be surprised. Um, so that's kind of some of my thoughts. Another part of why I insinuated that I think profit taking is reasonable. The amount of people now there is no truth to any of what I'm about to say with this as well. But the amount of people that have come to me over the last week and asking about tickers, and in all honesty, not the greatest companies that these guys are asking about. They're still unprofitable. They still have tons of share dilution. They think that, oh, risk on, just FOMO into any name, and you're gonna get a return. That's some of the mindsets with these people. Now, there's an old saying that old financial advisor goes to the bar and somebody asks the guy what he does for a living, and he talks and he says, "Oh, I'm a trader, or I'm a financial advisor, or something to do with the stock market." And a lot of times the response that he gets from that can also be a tell of the market. If they are saying, "Oh, I feel bad for what you do. The market is down." I I really feel for it. I couldn't do it, man. I couldn't do it. A lot of times when there's that fear factor in the market, uh, that actually can be some of the best times to invest. I'm sure these financial people that were down here when we had prices down here, a lot of people were saying, "Oh man, I really feel bad for what you do. It must be really hard doing what you do." And I'm sure had he went to the bar up here and he said, "Oh, I work in the stock market. I'm a trader, or I'm a financial advisor," a lot of people probably would have been like, "Oh, man, dude, you gotta have the best job in the world. The market's booming. Oh, what do you think about this name or this name or this name?" A lot of times when you have that FOMO and that greed in the market can also be that tell that, hey, we might be a little bit overextended here. I hope that analogy makes sense. And like I said, there's not any 100% truth to it. Uh, but just over the last week, just kind of hearing people reach out to me and asking about it, I kind of got that feel a little bit. And that does not mean that, we're going to get a straight shoot to the downside. Bears are in control. I mean, looking at the NASDAQ right here, I mean, if we just go over to a daily, there's plenty of strength right here. You have a nice bull flag setup. I already showed you on the TQ that you're getting increasing volume with a nice consolidation period to the, and I'm sure there's people out there that actually probably bought over the last couple of days trying to build positions. And those positions, they could be down today and they're sitting there twiddling their thumbs like, "Oh my gosh, my position's red. What am I doing?" And there's that fear in the market when you have a position start going red. Whereas, if you'd just been in on strength, I'm sure if you go back over to January and you had entries in here, I'm sure your positions are actually doing pretty good, depending on what you're investing in. This is why short-term trading is so interesting. And I'm sure there's all sorts of studies and tests that can be done based off of people's emotions in the stock market. And this is why I love what I do. Because I try to cut through all that and stay consistent in what I do. And this is what I'm trying to teach with the channel. So I'm sorry if I'm rambling on a lot. Uh, I just kind of had to get some of that stuff off my chest. But more so, we'll go into some technical analysis on today's red day that the TQ down 3.5%. And why I simply said that, it could be worth a profit take is yesterday was a big tell. You kind of have this ascending wedge pattern right here. Now, I was very focused on this uptrend, and more in particular yesterday, it had this descending channel that it was able to show strength and breakthrough. But I was very interested on this uptrend that we had right here, and I honestly almost punched in long for some shares off this. But I'm like, no, just kind of let it play out if we want to go and break and set some new highs. And when this candle came in and we set a close right here, I immediately said to myself, the open price for tomorrow is going to be a big tell. And when I seen the Nasdaq futures early in the day, and I seen we were gonna get this gap down. I was like, oh, that's a gap down right through this uptrend. And you can already see some rejections of the levels. And when you get this breakdown of this level, it's like, yes, I'm so glad that I was able to identify this sort of weakness, and it kind of gives you a little bit more confirmation of you're putting in the right stuff. Uh, but all in all, I would say that you still have a pretty consistent. We talked about this TQ trade right off this gap fill. You had a nice 702 retracement. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Uh, but you did have a nice uptrend right here, where we had the gap fill, and then this was your 702 retracement. This is why 702 retracements to the upside and the downside. When you get gap fill buyers, they're looking to take profit. So a nice move like this is very good, and you can see the retracements hold very well. Now, if I was mapping this out for some sort of five-wave structure, you get that wave three, and you get the retest of this high right here. You see what I'm drawing out right here? And you see that wave 5 that comes in, boom, you get this nice rocket ship to the upside. Oh man, it's fantastic. Fantastic. Beautiful, beautiful exhaustive move, and the market was so green and everyone was feeling good. But now you're finally getting this kind of consolidation period where you're breaking these uptrends instead of holding uptrends. Now I would say I would still keep this uptrend. I wouldn't be surprised to see this meet up with these previous highs. We trade down here, and this long could come back in, and we just build a nice U shape. Uh, so that's some more technical analysis of kind of what I'm looking for, and you get these nice perfect test of the perfect wave one that you get. You get this nice wave one move. You 702 retrace this. If this was upside down, if I just flip my chart upside down, this is a clear early sign of a five-wave structure that it's putting in, where you hold this uptrend, and this uptrend actually kind of runs into today, where you're actually breaking through some even more uptrends. There's all kinds of different uptrends that this strong move in the market has had, and to kind of see some of these levels break down, a lot of people aren't used to this over the last couple weeks. So, yes, I would say that I wouldn't even say that you're too late to trim positions. I still think it's worthy of trimming positions, even with the Nasdaq being down like it is. But you have Microsoft, you have Apple, you have Tesla, you have all these big names that are reaching near 52-week highs in an economy that is not the most balanced. You have a lot of interesting conversations, or not conversations, but scenarios in the market that there's not enough clarity to expect, like a COVID recovery where you get these V bottoms recoveries. And this is actually, if you want to go more in technical of it, when you break this high, you retest that previous high, you put in a lower high right here, and it's followed with another higher high. I mean, this was a clear uptrend that it wanted to hold, clear as day. And when this uptrend breaks down, you retest it on the backside twice. I mean, these were clear areas where you were going to get some exhaustive moves to the downside. And are all of the problems resolved where we can kind of say, oh yeah, we're gonna have a straight shoot through the roof here? I just don't see it. I just don't see it. I really don't. I hope for it. I think that there will be a lot of happy people out there if we can get moves like that. But I when I hear that FOMO in the market, there's some part of me that wants to be on the other side. So I hope this breakdown in the Nasdaq. I know it's been a little bit overextended, but I hope I'm able to make sense in some of that, and I hope some people are able to watch this because there is some really good information that I'm presenting right here that you don't really see a lot of people talk about, in my opinion. Now I don't go out and search what people are talking about on YouTube. I've made that mistake early in my career, and honestly, I feel I've built enough of an understanding of what I like to do, and I've built an investing strategy that I feel works for me. That doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. So I hope I make sense and all that. But moving forward, we are going to move along. I'm sorry if I am a little long-winded on that topic. But XLE probably underperforms 2023. I am real enough as an oil bull that I'm okay if it underperforms in 2023. I really am. But in this XLE fund, I see a solid dividend with a solid payout ratio. And after looking at a lot of oil earnings over Q4 and Q1, a lot of them are doing what I like to see in an earnings report where they're returning value to shareholders, and that's what I'm really focused on is getting that value returned to me as a shareholder. And I'm seeing a lot of that in oil companies. Now, is oil overextended? It could be. I could be buying near the top on oil. But it doesn't change the fact that a lot of these oil companies have solid margins. They're buying back shares, they're increasing dividends. That return to shareholder value is what I'm looking for. So I thought the chart setup, and I also state that 2024 could be different comparing oil to the market. Who knows? Who knows? Uh, but I said over 80, I'm interested. Your downside risk, it has a $72 gap that I'm very interested at. And if it goes lower than that, I would still be interested in this. I think this is a solid fund that you can average into. Now, does that mean that it's going to be guaranteed? No, I'm not guaranteeing anything. This is just my opinion that I'm sharing here. So I also state size accordingly. Oil isn't going anywhere, my opinion. I really don't think oil is going anywhere. I think we'll be here in 2050, and that is the talk that we're going to be emission free by 2050. I would be shocked if we seen that. But we're still talking about 25 plus years in advance. I mean, that's those days are a long ways away. So for people to go out and count out oil, I just think that some people have the wrong idea. That's my opinion, of course. So XLE. So let's go over and talk about XLE. We did have three different fills on XLE today, and whether those fills are in the money, I'm not sure. Slightly in the money. So you can see strength negative 33. We're getting very close to a positive break where you actually are kind of trying to put in a higher low and you actually have a neckline where we fail to reach these overbought areas. So a couple fake outs on oil, yes, but I think the chart setup is reasonable. And I have a couple different uptrends that are meeting up around here. Uh, and if I close out this chart, comparing this to this previous low, if we're able to sustain a higher low right here, I like this. I think it's a very interesting setup. But I should mark this 72 gap. I think if you're wrong on this area, you have some clear areas of support that you can fall down to. You even have a previous high over here, a little shoulder that it puts in. Holds, it breaks below it a little bit, but holds for the most part. And then you confirm this higher low. I'm sure you can sort of build in some sort of uptrend, sort of like this, where okay, we could just be trading in a range. Now, if we break down below these 70s, it's to me it would be kind of a okay, let it settle down. It's not the end of the world. We're gonna average in accordingly, and let's see if we can get some exhaustive moves. You have some good support at 65. You have the previous highs at 60. You have some good support levels that you can fall to. It's not going to be the end of the world. Everything's going to be okay. Let it settle down, and we can go from there. So this is why I kind of state that, am I buying near the top on oil? I very well could be. Um, so that's kind of my take. So we can go over. I was very interested in this 79 gap that it was not able to fill. So you can see I simply just filled this gap. I wanted to see one of these trading days wick me through 79. I talked about XLE a couple times last week when we were getting closer to holding areas of support. This is when I kind of put it on the map when we're trying to set a higher low in here and of some sort. Now I got the gap up. I didn't get any fills, didn't get any fills. Now I get the gap up today. And right here, where you're messing with these tops, it's kind of a nut up or shut up. Like, are you going to start the position or are you going to dilly-dally around and who knows, we see this catch a bid up into the 80s or mid 80s and I'm like, oh, why didn't I start my position type of deal. So we did, for all I know, I forced myself into the entry. Now here's the gap up. Now all I simply had drawn was I had these tops drawn. I can see it's rejecting that top. I had the top of these where you reject, you reject, you reject, you reject, reject. Now I was watching this at the end of the day. When I seen this move to the downside, I'm like, yes, I'm finally gonna get this 79. I can get this fill, and I had it marked kind of like this, where I was like, this is gonna be my buying window. I'm gonna start my position on XLE, and we're gonna go from here. And then and then I get this gap up today, and I'm like, F word. Okay, what am I gonna do? So I had some levels drawn out, and I even had, I believe it was kind of like these tops. You can see we're topping into this quite a bit. And I said, okay, let's start the position. We got in. I believe my first fill was 80.08. We respected 80 flat, and I got a 95, a 79, 95 fill. Had it continued coming to the downside, I think I would have been committed. I would have been a little bit more patient, but I probably would have eventually found my way to this support level right here, where I might have even drawn these lows right in here. And I would have looked at this around a 79.50 as a potential area that I can build in to this position. Even though it's going against me, I'm okay with it, is what I would tell myself. Now, if that would have went against me, I would have said, okay, uh, can I respect the 79.25, get down to the gap? I would have probably respected it all the way down accordingly with size. And you can see down here that it got a nice pop. Oh man, and then we get a hard rejection right back down and we're wicking into the levels. So I like seeing that sort of build and actually looking at it from a more in-depth point of view is, this is trying to build a nice uptrend right here. If I go back over to the daily chart on this, you can see this is the uptrend that I really want to see hold. If it starts to break that uptrend, you're probably going to have this frowny face where frowny, sell the frowny face, buy the smiley face. Smiley face, frowny face. Are we going to be able to build a smiley face? That is the simplest way to put it. Sell the frowny face, buy the smiley face. Here's a nice smiley. Here's a nice frowny. Are we going to be able to build that? So, now when talking about oil, it would be beneficial to just go over to the crude oil chart. And you can see we kind of had this same uptrend where, we're trying to flirt with this breakout price. And I've been saying to people that, oil over 74, we were down here. We were down here. My bad, the mic went out. We were down here in this little dip, and I was like, I think I can wait for oil to get over 74. I'm going to respect that 74 level. And we got pretty damn close to it today. And you can see strength on oil, negative 26. You're getting these higher lows where, if I zoom out a little bit, this could be some sort of uptrend that's trying to build right here. Now, if it goes against me, I already have an understanding that it's going to have to break this uptrend for it to go against me. So looking at that, we'll go over to a 15-minute chart, and you can see, even off of this nice uptrend that we've been trying to build, and I believe I had it set more so like this. Boom, 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 boom. I will respect this uptrend for the most part, and if it goes against me, it goes against me. I've accepted that fact already. But you also have some sort of secondary uptrend that's trying to be built. Now, you don't have 3 points of contact right here. You could say this short-term double bottom is your third point of contact, but I like this as my third point of contact right here. Now I also see right here that this could have been looked at as a neckline where you push resistance and you hold support. That is what I'm focused on, is holding that support. So you got a couple decent uptrends that could be a catalyst. And here's that 74. It's still building that flat top. Does it need to break this short-term uptrend, retrace down to this more sustained uptrend before we break 74? Maybe. You might have to. All in all, I think XLE as a fund in itself is worth keeping on watch, and that is why we added to the position. We built that position a little bit today. So next thing I'll say, Bank of America. We also added to the Bank of America today. Now, this is going to kill me to go up over here and talk about this. You guys know that I've been very adamant that I like Bank of America. We've had plenty of sticky notes for it. And I talked about it last week as I like it at 28. And look at this support that this is built at 28. And I have 0 shares bought off of this support. Now that to me is just a big FU kick in the nuts. That, looking back, I really should have tried it. And today, I actually didn't get my fill until 68. I believe it was in the middle of this candle where I'm like, it put in this nice green candle, and I'm like, that's right near these flat tops right here. I say on the sticky note, flat top 28.65. Oops, wrong tab. Let's go back over to this. I say flat top 28.65, 28 solid support, 28.50 solid support, solid uptrend build, bull flag setup, strength, you're positive on strength, solid chart setup. And here we are kind of retracing back into these levels. And I would say here's your uptrend that you got right here. You even have a nice, oh man, looking at the way this closed yesterday, this was just so good of a setup. And I'm kicking myself for not at least adding to it a little bit in these ranges. But that's okay. We're staying true to it, and you can see this does look like some sort of wave pattern that's coming in here. And I'm thinking, we're probably gonna have to retrace. But for it to show me that it can break over top of that, I like the setup. And if it wants to break down where I entered today, I'm gonna look at this as a retest of support and uptrend. So I can mark the top of this wick, and I'm going to look at this as a potential buying window around that 28.50, which I state should be pretty decent support, and I'm looking for it to act as support. And I would say the big tell is you attempt to close above that 50. Okay, you get the gap down. You blow right through 50 and you're trying to hold that 50. You reject 50. You gap up. You try the run. It rejects 50. It shows rejection, and now we blow through 50s again on this opening candle. It just looks like a good setup for me, and you have a nice uptrend. Looking over at the daily chart for this, you can see this sort of bull flag setup. Now you do have a gap down here, but you can see this sideways consolidation. You can see we're trying to take out highs. But with this wick, you were able to fill this 29 gap. So I look at that as a pretty solid positive with this position because it was able to show strength to get up to that gap. Now obviously selling some at that gap, it could have been worthy there. And for all I know, it breaks this uptrend and we consolidate to the downside, or we trade down to the downside. But all in all, I think this chart setup is reasonable to be thinking long. Now, if it goes south on me, 27 could be good support, but ultimately my focus is going to be on this gap. This is where I really want to build out the position on this gap, and you also have a neckline trade here that it wicks very close to. So I'm looking at this as a wide range buying opportunity for BAC, a quality bank in my eyes. They don't have as big of a dividend. Yes, I understand that. But what they do that I like is they focus more on buying back shares and increasing that value to shareholders, which I think in the long run is going to pay out for long-term investors. Now, obviously, This is the first sign of strength that we've had since we got bearish. So yes, I would call myself crazy if I didn't at least attempt to buy some shares on this type of setup. I would be kicking myself if I didn't. So we respected the chart, and I think it's a solid chart setup, and more of a name that I think that I'm thinking long on. That doesn't mean that that's going to work for you, but that's kind of my thoughts with BAC. Uh, So moving right along, I'm sorry I'm taking a long time, but we don't really have too much more to go over. I talk about Ford, interesting chart setup, a wedge pattern. You have a wide range on this wedge. Strength, not quite there yet. I'm looking to start my position today, and I did. Nice bull flag setup on the 15-minute chart. Now, obviously, I'm expecting to go over and look at this, and it's going to be red. Yes, I'm in the red on the position that I started today. Obviously, a little resistance being caught up in the NQ probably didn't help this trade. That's fine. I have a plan that I'm going to be executing on this, and we can go talk about that. So here's where we start the position. I believe it was somewhere in this green candle right here. I said, if this candle wants to start turning green, I'm not going to get those 75 fills. I could have got the 75 if I was ready for it here. I just wasn't ready for it. That's the way I see it. And I could average into it, but you know, it's rejecting some levels. And I would actually go to the hour chart for this, where you have three candles, you have a couple candles of decreased volume, and you could be seeing some sort of uptrend right here. So I'm just going to give it a little time to breathe, and we're probably going to address this one tomorrow if we're still trading in this range. That is what I'm seeing with Ford, and you can see the wedge pattern. So if I go back to the daily, you can see this wedge pattern that's been trying to hold, and a couple fake outs right here. It does put in a nice head and shoulders. Dipped into that oversold just briefly, but starting to slope back up. If this can get another positive break, I think it has a decent chart setup to at least try it. Now you can see the part that I don't like about this trade is that you're getting a top, you're getting another top, lower top, lower top, lower top. Are we going to get another lower top? As you can see, it's been respecting this downtrend. But where I think this has some value is if you're able to break this wedge pattern. I think there is a lot of upside where a true breakout on this. And what I like is how on this wick, you're able to fill this gap. Now, if we're able to trade back to that range, I think that also meets him with this downtrend. But you don't have to worry about this gap. It doesn't look as much of a short to me. So that's kind of what I'm seeing with Ford. I think you're buying near support, but sometimes that can be your worst enemy. When that support gives up, you have to know where your exhaustive moves to the downside are. And I would say, here's your 11. You have a gap, and you have the previous highs. So if I get some exhaustive moves to the downside, this is the window I'm looking for. I'm looking for an exhaustive move. Let's see it build some levels down here, and we can work off of those levels. That is what my goal is here with Ford. And I still think it's a solid chart setup. Is it going to pan out for me? I just don't know yet. I don't know. We're going to find out. But there's a better look of the wedge pattern that it's building and why I think there is potential for an upsize move, where I'd say the true breakout on this name is probably going to be this top right here. If it can get over 13 and hold, I wouldn't be surprised to see this run and maybe test up near this 15 resistance, 14 and a half, where we're talking about it down here at 11 and a half. That's an upsize move of 23%. So I do think there is pretty good potential with this, and why it's and why I started my position in it today. So I hope that makes sense to you. Clear up any questions that you have. But yeah, this trade right here, we got alerted at 16.25. Now I said I'm interested around 16. I really want this name around 16. You have the strength. Over 17 could catch a bid. We didn't get that. But the volume was noticeable the last 3 days. A decent chart setup, and I think that BSM is a decent chart setup. And one of the interesting things that I also like about this, now, I didn't get those exhaustive moves down below 25s, which is going to be a little disappointing to me. But this could also be building a frowny face. Here's your noticeable difference in volume. And you have some buyers in the middle of this green candle, and here's your neckline break, and here's your 16 support. That also meets up at levels I want to buy it. So I'm looking at this as a retest of resistance. Hold support, hold support, hold support. Let's get just a little bit lower down where we can start this position, where I think this could be an early sign of some sort of channel. There's your early signs of a channel, where if we get to the top end of this channel, I think you're going to have some more breakout look over 17. This is why I say over 17. This looks pretty good, where you can maybe blast through that channel to the upside. Where I look at this as some sort of retracement. You know, if this wants to be some sort of retracement, that 17 level is also your half, where you can get some exhaustive moves. You know, if we're talking about it down here at 16, 13% up to that 702, worthy of trims, and you have some gaps that need to be filled, where I'd say around that 20 is your true upside potential with this, where we're talking about 23%, you know. And if it wants to be extremely bullish, there's a lot of resistance up around that area that you can respect, but if you're able to break over that, uh, a pretty decent setup that it has. On top of the setup that it has, you have a nice uptrend that it's been respecting. So I think you have that to fall back to if need be. So that is BSM and why it's on watch. IBM, it's not close enough yet. I'm probably gonna look at this chart and I'm gonna be a little disappointed. Ah man, I would have loved for this to just trade down to this 126 where I'm interested. And we still might get that, but a nice bit of green volume that came in. But why it's on the map is it was finally able to break this downtrend right here. You can see, my bad. But for it to be able to break this downtrend and also respect this uptrend that it had, this is why this is on the map, and I think this is a good value name. And more in particular with this uptrend is this could be some sort of ascending channel that we are looking at. Is this a perfectly set channel? No, I wouldn't say it's perfect, but it's interesting. It's an interesting chart. There's no perfect way to draw out this chart, but I think this is a decent value name. You're going to get a nice dividend. Uh, where I would say your potential breakout uh, is over top of this 150. If this breaks over, this could be early signs for a break over this 150, where you can see this flat top at 150. If I just mark that as 149.80, but you can see where we've resisted this area multiple times. Uh, and if you're able to eventually trade over that, I think you can actually get some exhaustive moves, even up to this triple bottom low right here. Doesn't look that bad. Because you reject it with the double top, you reject it again. You know, if we're talking about it down here in the 120s, a 30% potential move with a solid dividend, sign me up. But that doesn't mean that you're going to get that move, of course. But it doesn't look like we've had anybody watching. I've been keeping my eye over there. Uh, yeah, some really good information on this breakdown, and if anybody's just tuned into the back half, I really recommend going and hearing my bull and bear case on the Nasdaq. We could even go over the SPY. I think the SPY is representative of that as well. Where both names, I mean, we're getting some resistance in the market today. There's no question. No question. That doesn't mean that the short's on and it's go time for the shorts. No, I wouldn't. Why is my charts not? You know, maybe this is a sign that I just cut the video here and move forward. You know, maybe my internet went out. I will the Nasdaq pull up? No, I can't get any of my charts to even pull up right here. Yeah, it doesn't even matter. We don't even have anyone watching. I'm probably wasting my breath even sharing the information. It's been nothing but gold. I look at it as nothing but gold. So for those of you that aren't listening, you're missing out on some really good information, and I feel sorry for you. Um, I'm not wishing anything against you, but that is going to call it for the stream today. I appreciate those who tune in after I end the stream here today, and you guys have a good rest.